Updated. My wife of nearly 3 years has done some unthinkable things. 2 weeks out of D-Day. Please help me. 30 male. Original post. A bit of background. I, 30 male, and my wife is 25 female. We've been married for 3 years and together for nearly 6 total. No children. No real assets whatsoever. More debt than there is cash in our checking. We rent a house and I'm the primary breadwinner, bringing home roughly $4,000 a month, and she nets around $1,500. I work my ass off to provide with her the life that she's accustomed to, and now facing the unthinkable. My work family is pretty tight-knit. A coworker of nearly 3 years invited me to join in a recreational soccer league, which I've played in for 2 years now. My wife would attend every soccer game of mine, which I thought was how she showed support for me. But in the back of my mind, I thought she just went for the alcohol that went hand in hand with it. Most nights I had games, I would take it very light on the alcohol, but she was a spectator and would get pretty loose during the games and ride home with me. Pretty frequently after the games, a few of the guys and girls would get together at different places to hang out into the night. A few of the times we all came back to my place, we'd go to a bar, pizza joint, etc. Well, a couple of weeks ago, a group of them were going to get together at one of the guys' houses a city away from me. I told them after the game that I apologized we wouldn't be going. I had to work early the next morning. Well, on the ride home, she texted one of the guys I considered as being a buddy, asking him to give her a ride over there. She asked if it was okay for her to go while I was driving home, and I said no. I have work in the morning, and I want to be with you tonight. She gave me the angry alcoholic silent treatment, and upon arriving at home, I pulled into the drive and a car pulled up in front of her house. It was my buddy. She had made the executive decision to go to this party, and I was pissed. I went to my buddy's car and told him I'm not okay with this and to leave. But then my wife got out of my car and into his, and they drove away. In my rage, I plugged in the dead iPad I had bought for her some years earlier. It was old, but I knew it was connected to her messaging and social media accounts. I saw exactly where she was and tried staying up until I finally fell asleep that night around 3 a.m., and she still wasn't home. When I woke the next morning, she was in her bed. I didn't know when she had came home. I got up, got ready for work, and left that morning without waking her or kissing her goodbye. The first and only time that had ever happened. I wanted her to know I was pissed. Before I left for work, I grabbed the iPad and threw it in my briefcase. I go to work that day, and after a meeting and a few phone calls, I pulled the iPad and see it light up with a notification from the messaging app. Buddy is typing. I open the app and see a horrific exchange of messages that are supposed to be self-destruct, but this app version must have been outdated, as I was able to witness in real time their conversation, recanting the night before where Buddy is making references to them making love and the other guys that had fun last night. I damn near lost it. But then it got worse. I watched as my wife instructs Buddy to send her a video of him masturbating, which he obliged to do, and I unfortunately witnessed. I ran out of my office and into the bathroom and vomited profusely. I was shaking from what I just witnessed and got permission to leave work for the day. After taking several hours to chill the hell out, I was legitimately afraid I was going to hurt someone or myself. I drove home and found her still sleeping on the bed. I put my stuff down and asked her to come downstairs. I sat across from her and asked her to tell me in detail everything that happened last night, which she did, but omitted any sort of sexual situations, just drinking, playing pool, and talking. That was it. I then asked her when she spoke with Buddy last. She said that she had messaged him back and forth a bit that morning, but nothing in particular. Then I dropped the bomb. Would your story change if you knew that I watched the entire conversation that you had with him this morning? She blew up into tears, and first thing out of her mouth was, "Are you leaving me?" She came clean and told me that she couldn't really remember that clearly, but she had sex with Buddy and another teammate last night, and that's all she could remember. It may have been with more guys, but she couldn't remember. I was disgusted. I asked her if this was the first time, and surprisingly, she told me that there had been other times. One time was even in my house while I was sleeping upstairs. That was it. I was so numb to it all. I helped her pack a bag and she left the house to go stay with family, and she pleaded for me not to tell anyone. I was alone in my horror story and am now 2 weeks out from D-Day with no idea what to do. I really hope I don't take the cake for the worst D-Day experience, but it's hard to think of anything worse than catching your wife in a gangbang scenario with guys you've welcomed into your lives, and to find out that this has been going on for months with at least one of the guys. Now she wants to blame it all on the alcohol and swears she's going to start AA and wants to now go through couples therapy. She wants us to come out of this together. I think it's a little too late. But I'm a chump and I feel the full rage of PISD emotions, including guilt. I don't know why. I have a meeting with an attorney tomorrow. I like to think that I'm making the right move no matter how broken she is over being an alcoholic and really wanting to work this out. I can't even talk to her without imagining her being the lunch meat in a douchebag sandwich. I can't trust her. I'm disgusted by her actions repeated. I deserve a heck of a lot better than that. And I'm not perfect, but why in the hell do I feel so guilty? There's no reconciling this, right? I'm not the bad guy, am I? Any support, words of wisdom are much appreciated. I feel like an idiot writing this all out and seeing it so clearly, but it's not easy to just stop caring about the person you were completely and fully blindsided by. Please take it easy on me. Now for the updates. Update 1. I truly appreciate all the advice, concern, and positivity that you all have sent my way. I realize that it's been almost a month since I posted my experience, and I've had many people reach out to me kindly checking in and wanting to know how I'm doing. Unfortunately, this situation has gone from horrific to unbelievably evil. There isn't a word that I can think of that does it justice. I apologize in advance for what I know is going to be a long update post, but it's the only way to get the full picture of how truly destroyed I feel. Days after the initial post, I took your guys' advice and made a few appointments with attorneys and one with a legal document preparation lady to keep my options open. My wife had no knowledge of those meetings, FYI. We went a few days after the post with no contact directly, but she was adamant that this time she really was going to make an effort to get us in to see a marriage therapist, which I had been insisting upon for months before my D-Day, so we can try to see if there was any way of working through this. But I knew in my heart what my choice would inevitably be. She did succeed in getting us onto a therapist schedule, but it was going to be about a week and a half until we could get in. During that time, I was literally stalking her every move from that damned iPad. I was obsessing over it, watching every message come and go, checking Facebook, Snapchat, everything I possibly could. After a week and a half of scrutinizing every move she made digitally, I really had no further evidence, and I thought perhaps she was showing true remorse. When it finally came time to see the therapist, he sat us down and asked us why we were there, and I told her to tell him the story in her own words. She left out some details, but most of it was there, out on the table. The therapist turns his head to me after hearing it all and asks me, "How does that make you feel about your trust in her? How does it make you feel about your marriage?" I just shook my head in disbelief and shock, and instead of answering his question, I replied, "If I don't say it out loud right now, I'm afraid I never will. There's no coming back from this for me, the marriage. This marriage is over. The vows were broken, my trust is shattered, and I think the only thing left to do is to get a divorce." My gut wrenched, and she completely blew up into hysterical crying. I continued, "I don't know what can be salvaged from this relationship, but the marriage is over. I meant what I said on the altar, and I'm not being true to myself if I don't recognize this as being broken and unfixable." At that point, I felt a slight sense of relief having stated it out loud in front of her and a neutral party that I was done. The remainder of the therapist appointment was spent on him explaining to her why my feelings and my decision were completely rational given the situation, and calming her down. It actually couldn't have gone better in my opinion. He insisted upon seeing us not as a couple but separately to see if he could help us as individuals first, and then maybe on the horizon, perhaps years from now, bring us together for discussion of reconciliation. I'll say it right now, as you don't have to worry. At this point, I don't even have the slightest intention of ever considering reconciliation. But at least in the meantime, the individual therapy might actually do me some good. Now, before I continue, I knew at this point I was about to embark upon a legal journey, which, if not amicable, could be disgustingly ugly and financially devastating to me, the breadwinner in a no-fault state. I've written all of this legal process out, but am omitting until things are locked in. Too risky to post online at the moment. The overarching point of the legal process is that I have to keep things amicable right now. Let's fast forward roughly a week and a half. By now, we're both had at least one individual therapy session each, and her narrative to her entire family is that we're ending the marriage because of the breaking of the vows. But we're both trying to heal ourselves right now. She's still staying with family, and I continue my obsession with constantly searching her digital presence for any sign that she was continuing her disgusting habits, as many of you have suggested she would. Not saying it's your fault, I would have been searching anyway. It wasn't until one night last week that I realized there was a place that I hadn't ever checked. The App Store. I went to the app download history of the iCloud account and saw that almost 2 weeks prior to that evening, she had downloaded a secret texting app onto her phone. My gut wrenched. I realized in one foul swoop that this entire time, she's gone out of her way to hide some sort of messaging from me, knowing I had her iPad, which she insisted upon keeping so I can begin to trust her again. But I really think to this day that she didn't realize that an app downloaded on one iCloud device can be seen in the history from any iCloud connected device. I needed to know what the communications were within that app. I wasn't even in control of my body thinking back to those moments. I downloaded the app onto her iPad, tried a few of her most common login combos, and Viola, the truth. She not only had been messaging Buddy on this app since after our first therapy appointment together, but they had been continuing to have sex with one another during times in which she knew that I'd be out of the area. I puked. I cried. It was 3 a.m. on a weeknight. I went into the restroom and started grabbing all the prescription strength medications I could find. I went back into my room with an overflowing handful of assorted pills that without a doubt would have been effective in ending my life. I sat on the edge of my bed, sobbing, ready to end it. I picked up my phone and tried to call my mom. No answer. My dad. No answer. My sister. She answered. I told her what I had just discovered through violent outbursts of tears, and she could tell I was on the verge of losing it. She didn't know that I had the pills in my hand, but she did insist keeping me on the phone, albeit in the middle of the night, until I calmed down. It took about an hour, but I was finally numb again, and after hanging up the phone, went back into the bathroom and poured the pills back into one of the bottles, washed my hands, and then returned to bed to try to get at least a couple of hours of sleep that never came. As hours passed, I realized that I needed to go to work. I couldn't stand to be in that house or that moment any longer. As I got dressed, I threw the bottle of pills into my briefcase along with the iPad, both of which, upon arrival to my office, I promptly gave to my most trusted coworker and asked him to lock it up in his desk and not return them to me no matter what, no questions asked. He obliged, and he gave me an understanding pat on the shoulder as I walked away. So now I've done it. I got what I was asking for, what I had been searching for. Undeniable proof that not only is my wife a cheater, but she's also a cold-blooded liar. I struggled for days on end trying to decide on what to do with the information that I had discovered. On the one hand, I wanted so badly to call her out to every possible family member, friend, or acquaintance and let the whole world know what she truly is, what she had done and was continuing to do, but I couldn't. I already had the process underway for ending the marriage, but there's still a time window where she could choose to get nasty and costly. As days went by and more text calls and attempts to communicate with me went unanswered, she finally went out of her way to stop by and check on me. I about lost my shit. During the encounter, I was purposely very vague and seemingly indifferent to her. I didn't know exactly what to do. It wasn't until she lost her temper and started yelling at me for acting weird that I gave her a chance and asked her point blank, Have you had any contact with Buddy whatsoever since that night? Her response, no. I blocked him on everything. I asked again, are you sure about that? She adamantly proclaimed that she hadn't and that he was gross and she would never do that to me. She could never do that to me. Then I dropped the bomb. So what about this app? And what about this video I took on my phone of that app, showing the conversations you two have been having this entire time? The pictures you've sent one another, the plans that you've made to sneak around based on my daily schedule. She collapsed onto the ground, sobbing, crying, begging me. For what, I don't know. I kept my tone indifferent. So here's what's going to happen. I'm not going to tell anyone about this. And in exchange, you're not going to fight me at all about anything in the divorce process. I'm going to be fair, even though I shouldn't have to be, but you're going to be served with divorce papers and then do nothing with them. Otherwise, people will have to know about this situation and why it is that I am being so unreasonable. Your choice. She left, and 2 days later, she was served. Since that day, I've kept my word and haven't told anyone outside of my immediate family members, but I know for a fact, find my iPhone, she has visited him every single night since then, at the house where he lives with his mother. Her family thinks that she's going to Alcoholics Anonymous meetings every single night, but my screenshots of her location during the meetings prove otherwise. Seriously, why the F hasn't she changed her iCloud PW? I don't know why I keep compiling the evidence, but I do. I struggle right now with the anxiety of waiting for this period of time to pass until her right to fight me in court has passed. All the while knowing her family thinks she's on the right path, when that couldn't be further from the truth. In fact, she's lying to every single one of them. What hurts me the most right now is the injustice of it all. She gets to be around people, her family, and act like everything is on the up and up every day, and run off each night to have sex with him, then sneak home in the middle of the night to keep up appearances. All the while, I go to work each day, head home to an empty, mentally haunting house, and experience how it truly feels to be alone in every sense of the word. I'm past the feelings of ever considering self-harm, but these are dark days nonetheless. I'm taking everything hour by hour, day by day, until the day comes that I have the reassurance of knowing I'll make it out of this hell without my finances being destroyed and officially able to completely leave her in the dust. What I'll do from there, I truly do not know yet. I'm just trying to survive until that moment comes. Thank you all for reading and for your concern, advice, wisdom, and the courage that you've given me. My one outlet in a time of nothing but feeling completely shut out by the world. I may not know a single thing about you, but I trust you more than I trust my wife, without a shadow of a doubt. Thank you. Update 2. Hello again, everyone. In 17 days, it will be the second anniversary of my D-Day. Honestly, when I go back and read the previous posts I wrote, I can honestly say I never thought I'd make it this far. In terms of the amount of time that has gone by and the healing of the pain, burden, hurt, and depression I felt because of my ex-wife's horrific actions, I've received a message from many of you caring folks asking for an update. And all I can say is be careful for what you ask for. Hopefully this will be my final update as to what has taken place since the divorce became official. In case you're joining the conversation at this point, here's a bit of light reading that will get you caught up on the situation. If you enjoy being stunned, flabbergasted, appalled, or left saying unbelievable, read the post below first before continuing on. Obviously, it's been quite a while since my last update, but there have been some important events that transpired that truly show how appalling a human being can be. After the divorce was finalized in February of 2019, I tried my best to go no contact, but that's easier said than done nowadays. I didn't speak to her or anything like that, but every now and then, I might see a post from a distant family member of hers that I hadn't yet blocked, or a friend that would unintentionally mention something they saw on a mutual friend's Snapchat, things along those lines. All of my true friends tried their best to keep these type of updates to themselves, but some news was too big to hold back. The first blockbuster came in May of 2019 when one of my best friends called me to tell me that my ex-wife was getting remarried to a guy from Tennessee. Wait, what? Yeah, it was true. My friend's husband had yet to block my ex-wife on Facebook and was able to take screenshots of the events that transpired leading up to the big news. Mind you, this all took place between March of 2019 and July of 2019. Apparently, Buddy and her didn't last too long after the divorce was finalized. I don't know the specifics about that or how it ended. I kind of wish I did, but not surprising in the least. Starting in April, a string of status updates on Facebook alluded to everything happening for a reason, and subversive hints that she was falling in love with someone. Poor soul. Then seemingly out of nowhere in July, a simple picture and caption posted on her wall. The picture was of her and some random dude, none of who knew or heard of, standing in a courthouse holding hands, rings on fingers, holding up what must have been a marriage certificate, geotagged in California, proudly updated with her new last name, with a caption saying something along the lines of, "Excited to start the rest of my life with such an amazing man. Feeling so blessed. Look out, Tennessee, here we come." Dramatic, stupefied pause. I know that this entire story all the way back to my first post may seem unbelievable, but I can offer you no other proof than to say that I'm writing down God's honest truth. These next few lines may lose some of you, but I hope you've read this long, that you've has some trust in me. I felt like I needed to warn you before going on. I simply could not stand the intense curiosity of the situation. I reached out to one of my ex-wife's cousins-in-laws, who I got along with pretty well, to get the rest of the story. He obliged. Her new husband was someone who she had met online and had been talking to for a few months over the phone, text, etc. Apparently, they both fell hard and fast for one another, and he proposed to her on a phone call. She said yes, and they simply couldn't wait. Within a week of the proposal and a serious attempt by her to inform her family and invite them to attend the wedding, which took place in a very random town about 2 hours from our hometown, for some reason I do not know, he flew out to California, and the marriage took place on a Saturday. That day also turned out to be the first time that they had met face to face, that they were now man and wife. The kicker, according to the cousin, is that not one person from her family attended the courthouse wedding. Whether that was due to the lack of time or planning or lack of respect to attend, they were married unceremoniously, something I'm sure would have bothered the heck out of her. That Sunday was spent packing a moving truck with all of her belongings, and they set ease for Tennessee on Monday. I couldn't believe it. I've heard it from enough people by now to know that the story and timeline is true, but it was simply unbelievable at the time. That poor, poor man. If only he knew. I'm sure if he did know, he would have had the presence of mind to not get married in California, a no-fault state, where he could fall into the same situation I was facing with her. But hopefully he was simply not informed, as opposed to being that stupid. For the time being, I did the best I could to shake the idea of both of them from my mind, but I did find solace in knowing that they were moving far, far away, where I know that I wouldn't have any chance of randomly running into her ever again. Summer came and went in 2019, but right in the middle of fall, another bombshell. While thumbing through Instagram, a video crept up on my screen of my ex-wife holding a plate in front of her father, him covering his eyes with his hands, before I was able to realize that what it was that I was looking at. I saw that on the plate sat a single cookie covered with blue frosting. My ex-wife's voice came through and was counting 3, 2, 1, "It's a boy," as her father uncovered his eyes. It was a freaking gender reveal video? Why am I seeing this? Her mother had just created an Instagram account completely public and posted this video of her husband's excitement. Apparently Instagram's algorithm thought I'd like to see this video from someone I may know. I completely lost it. That was actually a really bad set of days and sleepless nights. The sickened feeling I had was a mix of disgust, pain, frustration, and even a bit of jealousy. It's one of my greatest aspirations in life to become a father. Had all of this not happened in our previous timeline, this very well could have been the time that we had a child together. It could have been my child. I could have been the one becoming a father. I'm 32 years old now. I thought I'd be one by now, much less not even on the path towards having a relationship, let alone a child. I'm a mature man, and I realize that I do have time ahead of me to achieve that dream with someone I love and I'm happy with, but I can't stop myself from comparing where I am in life to where I thought I'd be by now. All I can say for certain is that in this particular scenario, I'd very much rather be in my position than the soon-to-be father's. I imagine by now the baby is probably born. I've had that good fortune and company of those around me to not have heard either way. I know this is the preferable position to be in, not knowing then the alternative, but I can't help but wonder every now and then. The good news is that when I really think about it, there are more and more days now that she and her dumpster fire of a life do not cross my mind whatsoever, and I consider that progress. There are still some bad days which are made exponentially worse because of the stay-at-home orders created unbearably depressing days. I have the good fortune of currently working as an independent contractor, able to work from home on my computer, but those are very lonely days. I make a point to get out and walk, but I do miss the gym. I've gone home to visit my parents as much as I can, just to have some company that isn't talking to someone on a webinar or over the phone. I know this situation we all find ourselves in is shared in effects on all of our lives, but it's not something that I'm going through alone. When I get to feeling hopeless, I think back to the early days following my D-Day and how I thought I'd never make it through that, yet I have. And I'll make it through this difficult time as well. One day at a time, one moment to the next if need be. But time moves forward, no matter how slowly it seems to be moving. I thank you all for taking the time to read my update and catch up on what's transpired. I'd like to close by offering my sincerest gratitude for those of you who commented, messaged me, and encouraged me through this entire life event. I can say without a shadow of a doubt that it was the strength of this community that saved me, encouraged me, and gave me another shot at living a happy life after avoiding a dismal existence. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Here's to another 2 years of surviving and thriving. That's all for today. If you're enjoying this story, please like the video and share your thoughts in the comments section down below. Thank you.